This police officer showed up at this woman's home without a warrant. He said he wanted to make sure that her daughter was okay. When she asked for a warrant, he forced his way inside the house.
Do you have a warrant?
No.
That's illegal. Excuse me, you cannot force your way into my home.
The footage of this shocked a judge who dismissed the criminal charges and laid an epic smackdown on this officer.
Mr. Curtis had zero respect for the Constitution, for which he took an oath and swore to uphold. And quite frankly, I was appalled. I've never seen a video like that.
That police officer resigned, but then he was hired somewhere else. And after a few months, he got fired from there. And as it turns out, this wasn't the first time that he had entered somebody's home and committed violence inside without a warrant or any other lawful justification. He actually was sued for it before. But wait, there's more. Another man came forward with body cam footage that shows this officer trying to collect a private debt using his job and another police officer.
I don't know why he thought he could just intimidate me like that. I don't disagree with you.
So stick around as we uncover the unsettling details that should have already been exposed to you by your government, but of course they didn't. And as that judge said, he has no respect for your constitutional rights. What can be done about it? Kimberly Myers is a 46-year-old mother who has a career in corporate accounting. On July 7th, 2023, Kimberly was spending a leisurely day at her home in Frankfort, Kentucky with her teenage daughter. Kimberly had just gotten out of the shower when she heard a knock at the door. Kimberly answered the door, still dressed only in a towel, and then she saw Detective Gus Curtis with a group of police officers and social workers. Curtis demanded that Kimberly allow him to speak with her daughter.
Social services and Austin Hodges, just make sure the daughter is okay.
Yep, she's fine. Thank you. Have a warrant?
I'm sorry?
You have a warrant?
When Kimberly merely asked Curtis if he had a warrant to enter her home, Curtis responded no and immediately shoved the door into Kimberly, injuring her and unlawfully invading into her home.
Do you have a warrant?
No.
That's illegal. Iris, you're fine. That is illegal. Excuse me, you cannot force your way into my home. You are not legally. This is illegal. Get the fuck out of my house. This is illegal. You just, excuse me.
Enraged by Kimberly's assertion of her constitutional rights, Curtis directed that she be placed in handcuffs and arrested her without probable cause. As he twisted her arm behind her back with the towel falling off of her, Curtis glibly told Kimberly, if it's illegal, file a civil lawsuit.
It's illegal. File a civil lawsuit, all right?
So that's what she did. And that's what I just read from. This guy has a history. And before we get to the full history, here's what happened with this case. In a hearing this year, Franklin County District Court Judge Kathy Mangio said that the body cam footage showed concerning inconsistencies with the citation Curtis wrote in the Myers criminal case.
Mr. Curtis had zero respect for the Constitution, for which he took an oath and swore to uphold. And quite frankly, I was appalled. I've never seen a video like that.
Judge Mangio ended up dismissing the criminal charges against Miss Myers. Specifically, the judge said, after reviewing the body cam footage multiple times, thinking surely to goodness I had missed something, it instead became glaringly apparent to me that Mr. Curtis had zero respect for the Constitution, for which he took an oath and swore to uphold. What about this video made it glaringly obvious that Officer Curtis has no respect for the Constitution? Well, what the judge was referring to was the fact that he showed up at this woman's house without a warrant, and when she declined to allow him to enter, and she requested or demanded a warrant, he completely ignored the Fourth Amendment and instead just barged his way in. Federal constitutional law is very clear that the government cannot just barge into your home unless they have a warrant. The only possible exception to that is the exception known as exigent circumstances, which, just based on what we saw there, it theoretically could apply. If police officers are aware that there's some emergency inside, like a child is in danger, they could just barge in the house without a warrant. But is that the case here? So I pulled the lawsuit, and I'll post a copy of it at the blog. And it shows the underlying history about what happened here. And that's that the child in question has had a history of mental issues. And another child had apparently reported to CPS that the mom had, in some abusive way, restrained the child while the child was having some sort of fit. Now, that was denied, and CPS showed up to the house. There was conversation about it, and there was no emergency going on. So several days had gone by. The bureaucracy there, the CPS bureaucracy, had wanted the mom to sign some sort of safety plan. She refused to do it for whatever reason. And then within hours of her refusing to sign this document, so it's not an emergency, that's when Officer or Detective Curtis shows up. So it wasn't like there was a report of something imminently or ongoing happening in the house and it was an emergency, they had to get in now. This is something where there had been discussion, maybe visits already over a course of days. And it was just her refusal to sign this prevention plan or safety plan that sparked them just busting into the house. When the proper remedy for the government in that situation would be to apply to a judge for a warrant or some other court order to come in the house and get the child or check on the child. That didn't happen here. And this is, I think, something that really happens all the time in this context of this huge abuse and neglect bureaucracy involving CPS. So Curtis then resigned from the Frankfort Police Department in 2023, weeks after this incident with Myers at her home. But then he was soon hired by the Boyle County Sheriff's Office, where he was fired there after just a few months. Prior to being employed by the Frankfort Police Department, Curtis was employed by the Georgetown Police Department. What happened there? Well, according to the lawsuit, Curtis resigned from the Georgetown Police Department on February 1st, 2017, 2 days after being served with a 48-hour notice regarding numerous acts of misconduct. Despite Curtis's history of misconduct, the Frankfort Police Department hired him in 2018. Curtis's unsuitability for police work became evident to the Frankfort Police Department almost immediately when on August 12th of 2018, he unlawfully entered the home of somebody else, Keontae Russell and Cheyenne Washington. Curtis tased and beat Russell before arresting both of them, all without any probable cause. This manifested into a lawsuit for the police department in Russell versus City of Frankfort in 2020. That lawsuit was settled before trial. The allegations in that lawsuit were actually very similar to what happened to Miss Myers. In August 2018, a 21-year-old man was walking to his girlfriend's apartment when he was stopped and questioned by Curtis, another officer, and a sheriff's deputy. The three officers questioned the man about a series of alleged thefts from vehicles in the area. The man allowed the officers to search him, and then they released him. When the man got to his girlfriend's house, he told her about what happened. The girlfriend, frustrated with what had happened, walked outside and yelled at the officers as they drove by. The lawsuit alleged that Officer Curtis and the other officer then unlawfully just entered her apartment, beat the man who'd been questioned, and then arrested both him and his girlfriend without probable cause and without a warrant, of course. The man was charged with hindering prosecution or apprehension and resisting arrest, and his girlfriend was charged with second-degree disorderly conduct. All of those charges were later dismissed. But wait, there's still more. Less than a month before the incident with Miss Myers, there was a separate incident involving Curtis that was also caught on body cam. Apparently, Curtis reached out to an agency outside his jurisdiction, to Nicholasville Police Department, to ask them to contact a man related to a, quote, investigation.
He is part of a criminal investigation. He needs to be identified.
Okay.
But when the Nicholasville police officer arrived, he learned that Officer Curtis was actually trying to get him to collect money from the man over a personal matter.
So, I'm a little upset that you had lied to me. You must have forgot what I did for a living.
I am not part of it. It's a civil matter.
So here's your two options. You give Mr. Boston $525, or you cut a check tomorrow about 5 o'clock of $525, or I'm going to Mercer County Courthouse first thing Monday, and I'm getting a warrant for you.
The man filed a complaint with the Frankfort Police Department about the incident. He said that he called the department to check on the status of the complaint and was told they didn't even have it on file. He ended up seeing this guy on the news, and he came forward with this body cam footage. And this guy, a former firefighter, said that he was told by an internal affairs investigator last year when he first made the complaint that both he and Officer Curtis were in the wrong and that nothing could be done. And again, that was before the incident with Myers. So had they taken this guy's complaint seriously and done their job, this may never have happened to Miss Myers. So let's recap. Larry Gus Curtis resigned from the Georgetown Police Department February 1st, 2017, 2 days after being served with a 48-hour notice regarding numerous acts of misconduct that his employer was alleging he did. Then he ends up later resigning from the Frankfort Police Department after both of these lawsuits were filed, one of which apparently settled, and the other of which involved a judge saying that he has no respect at all for the Constitution. Then he goes to the Boyle County Sheriff's Department, and he ends up apparently getting fired from there, and I guess is still under investigation. So in Kentucky, law enforcement agencies are required by law to turn over the files of officers who resign while under investigation for fireable offenses to the Kentucky Law Enforcement Council, the KLEC. But the news media found that Curtis's Frankfort Police Department file didn't appear to show that there was an investigation. But apparently the Boyle County Sheriff's Office, the last one that we know of, did. The KLEC received notice of a personnel change for Larry Gus Curtis from the Boyle County Sheriff's Office, indicating that he had been terminated while under criminal and administrative investigation, the KLEC said in a statement. This Kentucky Certification Council also said that Curtis's case was reviewed in May and that it was referred to 13B proceedings for decertification. Attorney Scott Miller is defending Curtis in the lawsuit that Ms. Myers filed, and he said this: "The complaint only presents one view and doesn't accurately reflect all the facts of the case. The video also has a limited perspective and doesn't tell the whole story. Therefore, we will continue to put forth our client's side of the story within the constraints of the lawsuit itself." So while the first incident lawsuit appears to have been settled, the lawsuit involving this video involving Ms. Myers, where he bursted into her home, it is still pending. So we'll continue to follow that one. If you have information or you're involved, please send me the details. I'd like to see more body cam footage if it's available. Show me the context. What do you think? Based on what you saw, what justification, if any, do you think that the government had to intrude into this woman's home without a warrant? Let me know in the comments. Please subscribe both here and at the blog at thecivilrightslawyer.com. If you have a video you want me to review, please use the submission link below. Remember, freedom is scary. Deal with it.